Week number 10 in the NFL is here. What's going on, BLV football fans? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL Picks show, previewing every single matchup for Week 10 in the NFL this 2023 NFL season. Going through game by game and giving you my prediction straight up and versus the spread for every game of this NFL season. If that sounds good, you know what to do. Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for weekly NFL picks live every Wednesday night. If you haven't already, check out my best bets for week number 10. And tomorrow, my over-under picks will be available on the channel, so don't forget to check that out as well. Appreciate all the support on these videos, all the viewership. It's going up every week. Thank you. Let's say hello to the people in the chat and say hi to Jordan Hunter, the guitar-loving teen. Caesar in the chat. We got Dan in the chat who says, hello from the bold north of Minnesota. If you don't know that term, it's Minnesota. Big Al says, all hail King Caesar, sings in the chat. We also got Jax Pratt in the chat. He says, let's have a 10-4 week and leave the Dublin in the dust. And yeah, that's a good start because last week, from a straight-up standpoint, I didn't do that well, and it was because I went out on a limb on a number of my games. I went for a number of upsets, and it just wasn't that week for the upsets. Like, it just didn't come true. And you know what, man? Tom Brady lost to Nick Foles in the Super Bowl, so we can't always be fantastic. It just doesn't always happen. Sometimes you pick the Dallas Cowboys to beat the Eagles, and everything goes the way you say it, and Dak Prescott's right foot's out of bounds. You know what I mean? Sometimes you pick Miami for fun to finally prove it to you, to beat the Chiefs in Germany, and the best offense in the NFL scores 14 points after what I said the defense actually showed up. And sometimes Mac Jones throws the ball right in the hands of his receiver. It goes through his hands and it's intercepted instead of the game going to overtime. But in the weird Patriot fandom, they think that's a bad pass. Anyways, let's take a look at our record for the season and how we did last week. So our record is 86-50 straight up on the season. Spread record is 77-55 and with 4 pushes. And we've got an over-under record. We actually did the best this past week on our over-under picks. We went 9-5 on the over-under picks, 76, 57, and 3. Our spread record was actually better than our straight-up record at 8-6. And our straight-up record was 7-7. So looking to get back above into our normal range of about 10-11 wins on the week. All right, so let's get to it. Let's waste no more time. What's going on, Ben? What's going on, Laura? What's up, Luke? Thank you guys for tuning in live. Gronk, spike the like button. And let's begin with Thursday Night Football, an absolutely epic matchup. I'm talking about behemoths of the sport, juggernauts of the game of football. A legendary matchup that will be talked about decades from now. It is Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers traveling to Chicago to take on the man, the myth, the legend himself, Bajent the Agent. No Justin Fields in this game. We kick off week 10 with a hot start here. The Chicago Bears, -3.5. And Why are the Chicago Bears on primetime again? Can someone please tell me why the Chicago Bears? I get it. Carolina's like rarely been on primetime. I understand it was the first overall pick. It makes some sense to have Carolina on primetime. Can somebody tell me why Chicago keeps getting on primetime? Can we please? And NFL, can we please step in and start to replace some of these games? Because the primetime schedule is so bad. Somebody fix it, please. No Justin Fields, Bajent the agent. I don't know if that's actually a matter. Like, I don't think that matters, honestly. I don't know who's better. I really don't. You tell me who's better, Fields or Bajent. You tell me. But the Bears are favored by 3.5. I'm not going to mess around here. I'm not going to try to split. I'm not going to try to thread the needle. I'm not going to take the Panthers in any regard. Okay, yeah, I get it. Bryce Young, the game would have been closer if he didn't throw the ball to the other team twice for touchdowns. But the fact of the matter is, he's looking to throw the ball to the other team for touchdowns. And the Chicago Bears defense, I don't think it's that bad, especially at home, as of late. They didn't play well against the Chargers. That was kind of expected. But last week, I thought that they kind of held their own against the Saints on the road. I liked what Montez Sweat looked like. I think that is going to be a big deal at home there. The pass rush definitely got a boost with him in the lineup. And then the secondary of the Bears, led by Jalen Johnson, is not half bad. I like some of the players. And you look at Carolina's offense. I mean, it's really bad. Chicago is good against the run. I don't think Carolina's really going to be able to run the ball all over Chicago. And I feel like the Bears in the secondary can be sticky against an underwhelming receiving core. And Bryce Young, like I said, is looking to throw the ball to the other team. I mean, that one screen pass, I've never seen a quarterback throw the ball with less touch in my life, throwing it right to Kenny Moore for a touchdown. So I like the Bears here. Maybe it's an overreaction, but I'll take them to win. I'll take them to cover. I'm not messing around. Thursday night at home. And then the offense for the Bears, I actually thought that Bajent, as long as they don't turn it over 5 times. I mean, guys, they turned it over 5 times. They only lost by 7 points to the Saints on the road. That's not that bad. That's not that bad. So, Bears, straight up. Bears versus the spread. Next, Ben also asks, are you saying that Montez Sweat didn't push Chicago over the hump to Super Bowl contention? I am, Ben, not quite saying that Montez Sweat did that, but I am saying that Montez Sweat helped them beat the Carolina Panthers, who are the second worst team in the NFL. Okay. Thank you, Ben, for the comment. Let's get to an arguable, just as elite matchup. I mean, this game is going to go down in history as one of the greatest matchups we've ever seen between these two franchises. We've seen the 2006 AFC Championship. We've seen other AFC Championship games, 2003, 2014. We saw the 4th and 2 game. We've seen numerous Sunday Night Football matchups. I mean, so much great football between the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots. But I think this one might be even better. In Germany, the Indianapolis Colts take on the New England Patriots. The Patriots, I think, are technically the home team here, which makes sense because I think very much like the Chiefs, they'll have more fans on their side in the stadium and watching the game that probably pre-ordered these tickets because Germans just want to watch some football, man, and I don't blame them, even though it's Gardner Minshew versus Mac Diddley Jones. So we've got a horrible offense in the Patriots, absolutely atrocious garbage can offense, taking on actually a respectable offense in the Indianapolis Colts, and that's going to be the end of my analysis. I will take the Colts to win the game. I am done with the Patriots. I am done with the hope. I am done picking them in any games. Their defense now stinks. They got shredded by Sam Howell. J.C. Jackson, he's not going on the trip. He's not making it on the plane. Belichick's had enough. He didn't show up to a meeting. or at least he showed up late to a meeting. Jack Jones, he's not going to play because Miles Bryant is the teacher's pet. So Jack Jones won't play. Then we've got the Patriots without Matt Judon, without Christian Gonzalez. Sean Wade's playing corner for this football team. And nobody likes this coach. I mean, Kyle Duggar put on Instagram, free me. The rookie Kayshon Boutte wants to be free as well. Release him. Nobody likes Belichick at this point. I really question if anyone wants to play for Belichick other than Zeke and Juju. I really don't know. So I'm going to take the team that's shown more promise on offense under Gardner Minshew, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor looking back in form, the better offensive line in Indianapolis, and Shane Steichen, who for my money has been one of the better young coaches in the game this year. Defensively, it's not like the Colts are atrocious. They're not very good, but they'll look fine against New England. And man, New England's just really bad. Like they're really bad and they're showing zero effort. So I'm going to go with the Colts here. Next, the Green Bay Packers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you guys have checked out the best bets for week 10, you already know where I'm going here. I'm taking Mike Tomlin at home, -3, -3.5. I think it's shifted back to 3. Regardless, it'll be somewhere between 3 and 3.5. The Packers, it's kind of the same analysis with the Patriots. Like, I'm not necessarily taking the Colts because they're this great team. I'm not necessarily taking the Steelers because they're this great team. But whenever you get the Steelers at home taking on Jordan Love and this Packer offense, that if they had an NFL quarterback, the Rams, they would have beat the Packers on last Sunday in week 9. I mean, if they had an NFL quarterback, they win that game. So the Packers stink. They are putrid. The offense is entirely Aaron Jones. There is no deep passing game. It is the simplest passing game I've ever seen. Matt LaFleur is an Aaron Rodgers product. And the defense stinks because they refuse to fire Joe Barry, who is the version of Matt Canada on defense. So Matt Canada will actually hide how bad of a coach he is in this game. If there's one thing I give credit to the Steelers for, it's last week, getting under center, running the football. I thought Najee looked better because of it, getting in heavy personnel. And then also Jaylen Warren, who's been electric all year, for some reason is still not their starting running back, whatever. Wide receiver Deontay Johnson is for real, and George Pickens is a big play specialist. And you've got to trust Kenny Pickett in the clutch. He's not a good player from quarter 1 to quarter 3, and he misses far too many throws. But in quarter 4, the guy seems to have something going, and they seem to figure it out. And they play renegade in the fourth quarter. TJ Watt makes one insane play that makes absolutely no sense, and they win the game. That's just what happens. The Steelers get outgained by every team they play. If there's a chance that they outgain anyone all year, it might be the Packers. So give me the Steelers here to win and the Steelers to cover. Next, the New Orleans Saints at the Minnesota Vikings. The Saints are favored by 2.5. Here's something that people don't account for when they play the Vikings. Is the game in Minnesota? Because if the game is in Minnesota, which this game is, they score way more points than you would ever project them to score. It doesn't matter who they're playing. It doesn't matter which defense. They could play the 85 Bears, the 2000 Ravens, the Falcons last week with the Pastronaut off of the bench, no practice. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter who they play. They're going to score more points than you project. Okay? And the Saints is going to be the same. What I like here for the Vikings, I like their offensive line in this game. I think their offensive line is heavily underrated, especially at home. I think they'll block the Saints. The Saints' pass rush is not very good. Carl Granderson's probably their best pass rusher this year. I don't think their pass rush is all that, sexy. I don't think it really gets after quarterbacks, and they'd rather not blitz if they don't have to. But the Saints play a lot of man coverage. We also see regularly, for some reason, in Minnesota, when teams play man coverage, they torch it. It just is what it is. It doesn't even matter. It could be this guy named Powell, and he's getting open. It doesn't matter. Cam Akers gone. Doesn't matter. They don't run the ball anyways. One thing to look out for in this game is Josh Dobbs running, because the Saints have trouble against running quarterbacks, whether it's designed runs or scrambles. Because of the amount of man coverage the Saints play, they seem to struggle with running quarterbacks. We've seen this in the past. On top of that, I really like Brian Flores against Derek Carr. Like, Brian Flores is going to blitz. Brian Flores is going to pressure Derek Carr right up the middle of the pocket. And Derek Carr's only response to the blitz is throwing the ball 20 yards out of bounds to Chris Olave. And then Chris Olave turns around and goes like this. Or he dumps it underneath for a gain of 4 to Alvin Kamara 18 times in the game. So take the over on the reception prop for Alvin Kamara. He will probably have 8 catches for 38 yards. So I think the Saints will be effective if they can hit some big plays down the field offensively. But I just really think there's a coaching mismatch here between the Vikings and the Saints. You've got the home team. You've got Josh Dobbs with a full week of practice. I think Josh Dobbs generally is underrated. There's a lot of people picking the Saints in this game, but I just don't really see it. I think the Vikings own the Saints historically, especially lately. And although Kirk Cousins is not playing, I'm still going to take that into account. For whatever reason, when these two uniforms match up, the Vikings typically win. And in Minnesota, this time around, I just like the vibes. I like the energy. I don't love it as much from the Saints. A team that had 5 turnovers could only beat the Bears by 7. There's something wrong there. As much as I love Taysom Hill, he'll probably score a touchdown in this game. Josh Dobbs is just as lovable. So give me the Vikings to win. Give me the Vikings with the 2.5 points. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons at the Arizona Cardinals. Atlanta is favored by 1.5. Kyler Murray is expected to play in this game, but there is one problem, ladies and gentlemen, with Kyler Murray. Call of Duty releases this week. So keep that in mind. Kyler Murray will not be studying the tape. He'll approximately be studying as much tape as Johnny Manziel with the Cleveland Browns, because he will be playing Call of Duty. That being said, he will also be rusty because he hasn't played in a while, and it will be his first game off of the knee injury since last year. I'm going to fade the noise with people believing with Kyler coming back that that's really going to spark the Cardinals to win this game. I actually think Atlanta wins this game. There's a lot of pressure on Arthur Smith right now. He's coaching for his job. For some reason, this man doesn't realize that Bijan Robinson is on his football team. And I still think Atlanta's going to win. I just feel like fading the noise here. I'm going to go with Atlanta to win on the road, -1.5. They are the better team. They do have the better defense. I think they'll run the ball on the Cardinals successfully. I think there'll be less pressure on Taylor Heineken to make plays. And I feel like Atlanta could have a little bit of a bounce-back defensive performance as long as they contain Kyler Murray here, which was an issue with Josh Dobbs last week. So definitely look out for that. This could be a little bit of a wild back and forth potentially if Kyler is all set and ready. I'm just not really buying it this week. I want to see it before I believe it with Kyler. I'm going to go Falcons -1.5 to win the game and to cover. Next, the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you do. Gronk, spike the like button. Get those likes up. That's how other people find this video. The Browns, the Ravens. Another best bet this week. The Baltimore Ravens to win. The Baltimore Ravens to cover -6. Deshaun Watson stinks. I'm not going to buy into Deshaun Watson's performance against the Arizona Cardinals and Clayton Tune last week. He sucks. And he's playing the best team in the NFL and the best defense in the NFL. I said it, not Cleveland, the Ravens. And if you look deeper at Lamar Jackson, this team, number 3 in DVOA of all time through 9 weeks, only behind the 1991 No Names and the 2007 New England Patriots. The Ravens defense leads the NFL in sacks. The Browns missing their left tackle, Jedrick Wills was put on IR, and their right tackle's already out for the year. So their offensive line in shambles. Marlon Humphrey playing, didn't play in the first game. Ronnie Stanley playing, didn't play in the first game. OBJ playing, revenge game perhaps, didn't play in the first game. So look for the Ravens to win this game with Lamar Jackson magic. Remember, Cleveland likes to play man coverage. Cleveland doesn't usually, because they play a lot of man coverage, that means they rather have to coordinate a pass rush that keeps Lamar in the pocket, or they have to utilize one player in a spy, which overall impacts the way they want to play defense. Because they play so much man, they would have to shift towards a heavier zone game plan against a guy like Lamar, because you don't want to play man as much against Lamar because Lamar runs just past your defensive end for 50 yards. So that's the problem with this matchup. Lamar is also 7-1 versus the Browns in his career in games that he actually finished. So he owns this team. The Ravens are really good. The Ravens will continue their streak. Could the Browns defense keep it close? Maybe, potentially. I just don't see it. Next, perhaps the game of the week, the San Francisco 49ers travel to the Jacksonville Jags. San Francisco is laying a field goal on the road off of the bye, which both teams, not just the 49ers, are coming off the bye. But it's a little bit different for both teams. Jacksonville was coming in hot to the bye, so does that kind of kill their vibe? I don't know. Maybe they can build off of what they were doing. For San Francisco, they were obviously on a skid, losing 3 straight to the Browns, to the Vikings, to the Bengals. I kind of feel like this is a game where we learn why the Niners are contenders and why Jacksonville is more in that category of Seattle type of team, where I think San Fran turns the corner, fixes some of their biggest issues, especially on defense, and wins this game. And I feel like Jacksonville kind of shows us that they're a bit of a fraud. Not necessarily bad, but just not quite as good as their record would suggest. They haven't necessarily played anyone as of late. I mean, the last, I think, nice win they had was against the Bills, and that was like post Matt Milano getting hurt in London. Jacksonville was already in London because they played Atlanta the week before, so there was like a huge edge for Jacksonville in that game. So my question is, who has Jacksonville played? I think the Niners come out. I think that they are angry. I think Chase Young really energizes this defense, and I think there's an immediate impact as a starter on the defensive line. And I think that Steve Wilkes now moving to the sidelines, because Kyle Shanahan said, yeah, get to the sidelines so I can yell at your ass if you're sending 6-man blitzes, because we don't do that in San Francisco. We haven't ever done that since 2019, so stop doing it. Please just rush 4, and we will play good defense, and I think they'll get back to that. Look for the run game. I think something that you could tell early in this game is, how does Jacksonville run the ball early? Because one of the biggest issues for the 49ers as of late has, believe it or not, been their run defense. So if you notice San Francisco getting gashed a little bit in the running game, that will be a sign that maybe San Francisco has not turned the corner or fixed their defensive woes. But if San Francisco looks a little bit more like last year and the year before that against the run, then maybe that's a sign early in this game that San Francisco has gone back to the lab and fixed something about their team. Trent Williams could be back this week at left tackle, but Debo is certainly going to be back, and I think that's going to be a huge spark for the offense. I could see the Niners putting up close to 30 in this game, and I think their defense and their pass rush specifically will overwhelm kind of a mediocre to bad offensive line for the Jags. Lawrence has not really played to his best all year, and I think he needs to play his best in this game to win it. So I'm going to go Niners win, Niners cover. Next, the Houston Texans and the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I've been all over Cincinnati in recent weeks, especially last week, and they were my biggest bet of the NFL season. If you tailed me on that, congratulations. And a couple of you did, because I remember a couple people commented, so shout out to you guys. But this is also an excellent game, and as Ben says, the game of the week. So there you go. It could be CJ Stroud taking on Joe Burrow. And a lot of people at this point are trying to figure out, okay, how good can CJ Stroud be? And one of the guys I actually compared him to was Joe Burrow. I think CJ Stroud plays a similar game to Joe Burrow. You know, a pocket guy that plays with anticipation, wicked accuracy. I think Stroud has a better arm than Burrow, honestly. And I do feel that Stroud is a little bit more of a savvier athlete overall. I do think that Burrow just has a unique vision for broken plays. And then also Burrow is really, really, really good pre-snap. And I don't think Stroud will ever be quite that good pre-snap. But they do kind of remind me, have some similarities there, Stroud to Burrow. So if you're looking for someone to compare Stroud to, it could be Burrow at the upper echelon of their game. Now, that being said, I think that Burrow has a team here, and Stroud is kind of just living off of, he's kind of Andrew Lucking this thing, you know how Andrew Luck in his first couple of years was just amazing, and the offense would score a bunch of points and win shootouts, but their team overall was just young and flawed and not very good. That's kind of what Stroud is doing, kind of reminds me of, and when they play a complete team, I think it kind of falls apart. The Texans' defense is not great. They're 24th against the pass and drop back EPA. They're overall a better run defense, but not quite great. Nothing about their defense really screams that they're going to shut down the Bengals. That being said, T. Higgins limited. Jamar Chase didn't practice. I think both play, so I'm not too concerned there, but I think that's something to be aware of. I still feel like the Bengals are tiers above the Texans. The Bengals are a Super Bowl contender. The Texans are maybe at best a wild card contender. And that's with a lot of respect for CJ Stroud, for Tank Dell. Maybe there's a chance the Texans can put up some points here if they can score in the red zone. But one thing that concerns me about this matchup for the Texans is the splits away and at home, where CJ Stroud has 11 touchdowns to only 1 interception. At home, he's been spectacular. And on the road, he only has 3 touchdowns. So he hasn't been great on the road. And I think that has a lot to do with the young team, the offensive line, the young coaching staff, just a lot of things that when you go to the jungle here, it's going to be loud. It's going to be tough to score in the red zone. The Bengals are very good with their game plans. And if there's any coach that could give Stroud issues, it's probably Big Lou, who's kind of known for those big play game plans and big game plans. Maybe he's sleeping a little bit after playing Josh Allen, but I do believe that everything points to the Bengals here. They're the better team. They're the better offense. They're the better defense. They're clicking. They're humming. I've got Cincinnati to win, Cincinnati to cover. I do think that Houston has a possibility of hanging around, but I don't see it as a strong one. So I'm going to guess something like 31-20, something like that for the Bengals. I think they win by about 10-ish points in this game. Next, the Tennessee Titans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs, -1. I never said supreme science that Stroud can't be good pre-snap. He's not bad by any means. I just said he wouldn't be Joe Burrow, who might be the best pre-snap quarterback in the NFL right now. So, yeah, that's what I said. Anyways, Tampa Bay, -1. This one's tricky. A lot of people I see are picking the Titans. And I'm a little puzzled as to why. I like Will Levis and what he's doing, but overall, I just don't feel like a game against a Vita Vea run defense is the type of matchup on the road that you want to be taking the Titans here. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but my first go-to answer for this game, not that I'm super confident, is the Bucs, right? The Bucs are at home. The Bucs, I think, have the better quarterback. Baker played really well last week against the Texans. I think that the Bucs have the better receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I like how Cade Otton and Rachaad White are playing. And yeah, I like Mike Vrabel more than Todd Bowles, but when you look at the defenses, they're relatively similar. Strong against the run, not great in the secondary. They're pretty much the same, right? I just like the home team here, and I'm going to go with Baker because I really like the way that he played last week, and I really think that the Bucs overall offensively are trending in the right direction. I do think that Will Levis is playing admirably, and I do think that he'll make some big throws in this game. I just don't think it will be consistent because I feel like they won't really be able to run the ball as effectively as they want. And when the Titans can't run the ball, they don't really have any consistency with their offense. So maybe I'm wrong, but I think that Tampa Bay should win this game at home. They've been kind of due for a win. I thought they should have won last week. So Tampa Bay -1, Tampa Bay to win the game. Not a lot of confidence, but that's my direction there. Next, almost choked over my spit there. That was disgusting. The New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. Tommy DeVito. He's straight out of The Sopranos. He's straight out of a gangster film. Tommy DeVito, the worst quarterback in the NFL. And hey, man, you got to give credit to the Giants. Why? They know how to tank. Start Tommy DeVito and thrive and get Caleb Williams. That is their strategy, believe it or not. I think the New York Giants don't just lose this game. I think they get absolutely obliterated. I think the Dallas Cowboys win this game in the first quarter. I think this is going to be like 34-6. It's going to be bad. Really bad. The Giants have never been able to block the Cowboys. That's not going to start now. I don't think Saquon is really going to do much because I don't really think Saquon's going to do much because the Cowboys are just going to pack the box. And the Dallas offense is looking real good. I mean, have you guys been watching Dak Prescott as of late? He shredded the Eagles last week. CD's on a mission, and I do think Tony Pollard gets going a little bit this week. So the Cowboys win. The Cowboys cover. If they should cover. I mean, if they don't cover here, it's 16.5. It's an insane number. But as long as it's under 17, they should cover that number. Next, the Washington Commanders at the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle -6.5. Seattle at home. I like Washington to cover this number, +6.5. I just really like their passing game. Overall, Eric Bieniemy is attempting about 45, passes every week with Sam Howell and calling like 40+ passes a week. And I think Washington is bound for some sacks and bound for maybe a turnover, but they're also going to put up some big gains and big yardage and big plays. And I love how Jahan Dotson played against New England. Terry McLaurin's Terry McLaurin. I think Curtis Samuel could be back this week. And Brian Robinson's done decent as the runner. The offensive line has improved a little bit the last couple of weeks, in my opinion, for the Commanders. And Howell just makes plays. He just makes plays, man. So I think Washington hangs in the game because of that offense, but their defense stinks. I think Washington's defense looked good because they played the Patriots, but they're not very good. I think Seattle will move the ball. I think Seattle, especially through the air, will torch these cornerbacks. So I see it something like 30-24, like a high-scoring game, 27-23. I think it will be a somewhat high-scoring game. Both teams get to the 20s, but Seattle survives with a Geno Smith final drive or something of that nature. An entertaining, low-key, kind of must-watch game near the end of the fourth quarter. That's kind of the way that I see this game going. Seahawks bounce back, but it won't be easy. Next, the Detroit Lions at the Los Angeles Chargers. Shout out to my dad, who's actually headed over to LA to watch this game with his buddy who is a Lions fan, so shout out to them. This game will be very entertaining. If there was ever going to be an entertaining football game in Week 10, it would be the Lions and the Chargers. We know that these two teams over the last 20 years, they may be good, they may be bad, but they're both going to be entertaining at all times. And they've both kind of had a reputation of messing things up in the fourth quarter. I think that reputation has shifted off of the Lions a little bit more so in the past year or two, while the Chargers still sort of have that vibe to them. But they have escaped the stink of Brandon Staley as of late against the Bears and against the Jets in games where Justin Herbert was good enough, the defense didn't look exposed, versus two of the worst offenses in the league, two of the worst quarterbacks in the league, two of the worst offensive lines in the league, and two defenses that tried their best but just couldn't hang in the game because their offense did nothing. So, in this game, I think Detroit somewhat exposes the Chargers a little bit. I'm not going to say that they're going to blow out the Chargers, but I think that the coaching staff of the Lions is much better than the Chargers. And that is their ultimate decisive edge. I think Dan Campbell will go for it in the correct moments. I think Brandon Staley will go for it in the wrong moments. I think Ben Johnson will totally outcoach whoever he is going against, Brandon Staley most likely. On the defensive side of the football, I think the Lions will attack them with balance, running the football with David Montgomery back, throwing the football with the added addition of Donovan Peoples-Jones. And then you get Jonah Jackson, you get Frank Ragnow back off of the bye. The Chargers just played last week in primetime. The Lions have been rested. The Lions are ready to go in a big spot here in somewhat a marquee game versus a marquee quarterback. I think the Lions step up. Their offense torches the Chargers. And I just don't see how the Chargers get off the field that much. Like, the Lions should be able to block the Chargers, and I just don't see how the Chargers are able to stop the Lions. On the other side, I think the Chargers can move the ball, but I'm not as convinced because the Chargers offense has looked a little bit sloppy in recent games. So I'm going to go with the Lions to win, the Lions to cover this spread. I'm going to say the Lions win. I like Big Al's score, 31-23, something like 30-23, 31-24, something like that. I agree with Big Al on that one. Next, the New York Jets at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are back, guys. If you haven't already, Gronk, spike the like button and show some love. The Raiders, I'm taking them at home in a big game. Antonio Pierce, he's going to have these guys just absolutely going nuts. The energy in this building is going to be tangible. You've got to take the Raiders at home on prime time against Zach Wilson. Max Crosby versus Max Mitchell, or whatever his name is. That guy absolutely blows. He stinks. He's putrid. Get him off the field. Max Crosby's going to have 8 sacks in this game by himself. He might win Defensive Player of the Year in this game. And then you talk about the other side of the ball. I think the Raiders won't force anything. They'll run the ball. They've got Josh Jacobs going now, and they actually have receivers who can win their one-on-ones on the outside, even against a really talented cornerback group of the Jets. So I like the Raiders here at home. I like the Raiders in this spot. And the Jets offense is just terrible. Terrible. So bad. So I'm taking the Raiders. And on Monday Night Football, the Denver Broncos travel to the Buffalo Bills. Give me the Broncos plus 7.5. The Bills just aren't that good. They're just not that good. Their defense blows. Their offensive line is not that great. And what I like about the Broncos as of late, defensively, they've shut down the Chiefs multiple times this year in terms of the scoreboard. I think they could do a similar thing to the Bills. I think the Bills have a better offense than the Chiefs this year, but their defense is way worse. And I feel like the pass rush of the Broncos has gotten much better. They are starting to play their younger guys. Browning, instead of Frank Clark, right? They're playing Browning, they're playing Benito, they're playing Cooper, Zach Allen's going off. Last game they played, he had a great game. I think those guys are going to get after it. Pat Surtain covering Stephon Diggs. I think they can put a shell on it. I feel like they can hang in the game defensively. Offensively, Sean Payton off a bye, attacking a bad defense. Run the football with Javonte Williams. Get the play action going. We've seen that be successful against the Bills in recent games, like the Patriots game, who's an example of a bad offense playing a good game against this Bills defense. And yeah, it's prime time, but the Broncos should hang in the game. That being said, Josh Allen's not losing this game. He'll find a way to win it. He will be Superman. He will run around. He will extend plays. He'll throw bullets, and he will make enough plays to win. So I've got the Bills to win, the Broncos to cover on Monday night. Those are my picks for week number 10 in the NFL. If you enjoyed, Gronk spike the like button. If you enjoyed even more than just a Gronk spike, don't forget to subscribe. Check out my best bets and my over-under picks. It's Mitch of the BLV. I love ya. Good luck in week 10 with your picks and enjoy the games. Peace, guys, and thank you for tuning in live.